To lose a strike is very devastating. For folks to make that kind of sacrifice and for it not to turn out well can be very crushing to morale. So it's not something you want to do lightly.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We've reported on tensions with the Teamsters and UPS here recently. There was that big buyout. I don't want to say scandal, but controversy, so to speak. And we've got another reminder here that when workers organize and actually wield real power, that corporations sometimes will actually listen. Because UPS backed off at the 11th hour when the Teamsters mounted a credible coordinated strike threat that was spanning 7 states. And the threat came just before picket lines were set to form early this past week. And the multi-billion-dollar company actually did retreat. General President Sean O'Brien laid it out bluntly. The Teamsters have lost all patience with UPS's ongoing attacks on our members' rights and our contracts. The gloves are off, he says. There were a lot of issues at play here. In Louisville, the union forced a resolution of long-standing grievances at the Aircraft Maintenance Distribution Center, restoring work to Teamsters Local 89 and Local 2727. In Chicago, Local 705 secured its first contract for administrative and specialist workers and ensured they now earn the top wage for their roles. And there were further settlements rolled in for grievances over seniority and safety at Local 20 in Toledo and Local 455 in Denver. Teamsters General Secretary Treasurer Fred Zuckerman said there's only one thing that UPS cares about, and that's money. Their behavior at the corporate level as of late proves it. Executive bonuses, stock buybacks, these things are far more important to CEO Carol Tomei than the rights and livelihood of the men and women who deliver all those packages. Let this be a warning to UPS that in any state, at any facility, the Teamsters are prepared to fight back against continued abuse of our members. And so I think it's important to highlight that it's not just luck, right? It's not that you can just totally bluff. You have to have strategic organizing, and you have to have a willingness to follow through on strike authorization. There was coordination across multiple states, which meant UPS could face some real consequences. And these real stakes helped change their behavior. And, the Teamsters were very blunt and militant in their messaging around this to make it clear that they were serious. So organized labor is ultimately the only force capable of holding corporations accountable. We know that, especially in today's era, all these buybacks and the soaring executive pay. The only check and balance we have is through organized labor. And as we mentioned earlier in reference to the Boeing strike in Missouri and Illinois, it's the strike power. That is our most important tool that we have to deploy. And that's really, really important. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily even take the strike, but the actual credible strike threat, the ability to organize and the ability to prepare yourself to go on strike. Sometimes that's enough to get the company to back down. It has to be credible. It has to be real, right? Because we run into folks all the time who want to go on strike, who kind of just offhand talk about the need to go on strike. And there's a lot of work that goes into that, a lot of preparation that goes into that. And it's really easy to miscalculate and to lose. And to lose a strike is very devastating, for folks to go on that kind of sacrifice and make that kind of sacrifice and for it not to turn out well can be very crushing to morale. So it's not something you want to do lightly.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
But, kudos to the Teamsters for pulling this off, for getting UPS to back down and offer some concessions. That's important. We saw in their big contract struggle a couple summers ago that, they made very credible strike threats. They were doing practice pickets. They were organizing. And it looked like it could have, resulted in a strike. And, I think you could credit some of the success in that contract to that organizing. Right. And, folks can critique the contract and maybe there are things about it they don't love, and that's all fair and good. But they made some significant gains, I think, arguably because they did pull off successful strike threats.
Right.
So I think that's important. And, I think it's really timely because right now we're in a state in this country where labor law is being shredded. The folks who are supposed to enforce labor laws are being understaffed and chased out of the office. It's really bleak out there in terms of like the legal structures that we've established for the last 80, 90 years to set up in this country to, facilitate union organizing. When you're organizing in a campaign right now, you know that the NLRB may not be able to do a lot for you. Or you know that the companies are confident that they have an ally in the White House and an ally in the Supreme Court should they have to take it that far. So that means the strike power is that much more important these days. I think for me, I think all of us as unionists need to be discussing how can we strike effectively? How can we prepare ourselves to strike effectively? How can we coordinate strike action more and more? There are, of course, legal limits and restrictions we face on striking. There's bans on secondary strikes, for example, things like that. But frankly, I mean, if the other side is playing fast and loose with the rules and ripping up the rules, we have to be looking at ourselves and really assessing our capacity. Because if we're not in a position where we can take collective action and ultimately take strike action, what leverage do we really have? I think that's really important. So shout out to the Teamsters for having some success there. We've been critical of the administration of the Teamsters, but give credit where it's due. That was some success, and I'm glad to see that. I hope the organizing will continue. It's not just what an international president or a secretary treasurer says or does. It's ultimately rank and file members and the engagement and involvement of rank and file members. That's where our strength comes from. I think all of us across the country, across the South, we need to be talking to our union brothers and sisters and really looking at what would it take for us to go on strike? What does that look like? What do we need to do now to prepare for a future time where we may have to go on strike? What does it look like to go beyond just our own contracts and our own specific workplaces and start looking at broader strike activity across the working class?
Right.
That's not what you asked me. You asked me about the Teamsters and the UPS, but I think we're at that point in this country where we have to be looking at massive strike disruptions in this country to defend ourselves. The working class is under attack from every direction, and if we can't pull off strike activity, I'm very, concerned about how we're going to survive and move forward, and not just, make things better, but even just defend what we already have.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.